I think we're here. Hey, everybody.
Hi, Bea. How are you? Welcome to webinar series number 2. The What If comes back, and we are so excited to have all of you here on the class today. Arminda and I are thrilled to be back presenting together. Arminda, give a shout out to the group.
Yay. Hey, everybody. From the hot lands of North Carolina. Represent.
I know. We've got folks here from Singapore to New York, everywhere. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. And this is of 3. And today we're going to kick off talking about one of our least favorite words and our most favorite sort of myths to bust, which is this notion of should. And since this is the first of 3, next week we're going to be hitting what it is that people think, and then the week following, what if setting goals is a sham. And as always, if you can't attend live, and there's an awful lot of magic here when you attend live, so I do highly recommend it. If you can't attend live, the recording will be available for both video and MP3 download afterwards. So catch us live, catch us later. So with that, Arminda, let's talk about the word should and all of the things that we should be up to and why so crazy and why such an impediment. I mean, what's going on with the word should?
Yeah, so it's a word that I don't like to use. And if I catch myself using it, I tend to, become like Dobby the house elf and start beating myself violently like I've done something that's really wrong. So I find that the word should is, it immediately places me, and I've noticed with other people when it's in use, is it immediately places us into what I call victim mode, victim mentality, because it means that I am feeling some sense of obligation to something or someone else. And that can even be myself, but that suddenly I'm lesser than whatever it is that I'm feeling that obligation. And that doesn't feel natural to me.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's actually also an impediment to or to anything that you may or may not want to create, right? Like so many different and we should go to the gym. I should take care of these errands. I should do something, and we don't do it. So where do you think that comes from?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just ingrained in us. I don't think that it's natural. I certainly don't want to suggest that. I do think that it's a learned behavior. And it's learned from a very, very young age. When we have adults in our world telling us, you have to do this, you should do that, you should not do that. That's where I really believe that it comes from there. And then it just becomes part of our vernacular and it becomes an imprint then. And we carry that forward into our adult lives, and we continue using that language, which is very negative, and it really doesn't allow us to step into full ownership of the very things that we want to create in this life.
Yeah, there's a big difference between want to, should, and have desire to create. I should go to the gym, but you want to. Is that something that you're committed to? Is your health something that you're committed to? I think that's also where there's a difference there. The difference between should and want to or desire, because one is sort of deflating balloon. That's what it sounds like. Should,
yeah,
versus and creation. And I see the notes here on the side, by the way, about my audio. I'm trying to adjust a couple of things here. Let me know if it's improving or not, and I may just unplug the mic here.
Let's try that, Alicia, because it's still really choppy from your end.
Okay.
I've also sent a note to live chat feature for the company to see if they can help us out with it.
All right, perfect. So can you hear me now?
I can. So far, that's better. Thank you.
Okay. So we're talking about the notion of should as this sort of deflating, if you will, and desire, action, creation as being in motion and moving forward. So having that and the difference of that, those two kind of ends of the spectrum, I guess, play in your life and with your clients, Arminda.
Can you please repeat that? Because it was choppy.
Yes, I can. So we talk about action of just kind of the deflating balloon and creation and want to desire building as actives of verbs and being in action and creation. And so the difference between those two things.
Yeah, I think I love the idea of being a verb in action, and that concept of myself, seeing myself that way, allows me to just simply show up, rather than feeling like I have, I don't know, like that there's some kind of prescription for myself that I should be following. Again, there's that word, that I should be following a prescription, as if someone has written it out and said, here's the way to a happier life. Follow these 3 steps. And if you do this, you should feel better in the morning. Maybe that works for you, but what works for me, I really want to tap into my own sense of self. And we can call it different things, my authentic self, myself as a verb, whatever you want to call it. But I really just want to keep showing up, regardless of what someone else thinks is the right prescription for me.
And so some of the places where this notion of should shows up are in jobs that we're stuck in, that we're unhappy with, in relationships that we stay in because we feel like we should for one reason or another, and the things that we keep doing, the obligations that we have because should be. So let's say that there's someone, and in fact, I have a lot of clients and many potential clients come to me and say, okay, great, I would love to leave this job that I have because it's making me unhappy, but I should stay here because there's a salary, because I need to pay for my kids' education. So, and what you and I are saying is well, we shouldn't do any, that shouldn't. So what do you say is should and not doing what you should do shirking responsibility? Or is there something with more possibility there?
I think there's more possibility here. And I'd like to suggest that we explore for a brief moment the role that fear plays in our shoulds and shouldn'ts.
Oh yeah, let's go there.
Because I think that when we have a fear attached to a should, we back ourselves, paint ourselves into the proverbial corner. So because we have a fear around an eventual outcome, we think if we don't act, or if we do act in a certain way, there's going to be a certain negative consequence, then we remain behaving in a should manner. Again, a prescription that who's given us that prescription could be ourselves. We think, well, I'm this age and I should be fill in the blank at this point, because we're comparing to other people, or we're afraid other people are looking at us and judging us, or we're afraid that, I'm back to the comparison. I think comparison also comes into this a lot. And if we can maybe turn it around and ask ourselves a question, if money were no issue, if fear were no issue, if you could do anything at all that you wanted to do, or say anything to that person that you wanted to say, what would be your response, or what would be the way you show up? That's where I want to come from. I want to go straight there. If I can strip away that idea of, I really should be doing this. I really should go over to my mom's house tonight for dinner. Should I? Or what if I don't? So I really think fear plays an integral role in the way that we allow that to manipulate us. I think fear manipulates us.
Yeah,
and that's us manipulating us, but we're using fear as the guise.
And so explain that to me. What does that mean, Arminda? Fear manipulates us, or the should manipulates us.
Well, I think that what I mean by that is when we buy into the misunderstanding that fear is real, we allow that fear, so we attach emotion and thoughts to that fear, and then that informs the decision that we make. So if I say, if I'm behaving in a way where I feel obligated because I'm afraid that I won't be able to pay my mortgage, for example. So let's say that the scenario is I'm in a job that I really don't want to be in. This isn't the career path or the company or the direction that I really see or that there's no progression for me beyond this, right? There are any number of things that could be going on there. But we stay because we say, well, I have a mortgage, so I really should keep this job because it's steady income. It's guaranteed income. Now, all of a sudden, I'm behaving in a way that is responding to a fear when the fear is really based in the future. It doesn't exist. So we've made up that fear. So is it true that you really won't be able to pay your mortgage if you pursue something else, or if you start something else on the side, or if you even just explore this notion of what else is possible? Does that answer? Is that helpful?
Yes, it really is. And what I'm also hearing you say is that should is it locks you into a singular option. You know, this using the same example and extrapolating on what you said. Now, I should stay in this job to pay my mortgage. Well, is this the only paying job? The one that's making you miserable? Is this the only paying job, or the only way that you can take care of that mortgage payment in the universe? The answer is only 100% of the time, no.
Yeah.
And so should, I think, also locks us into singular options or extremely limited options when there are always many more choices out there.
Yeah. I always like to say, I've been telling my daughter this for years, there are 43 solutions to every challenge. We usually get through the first 2 or 3 and then stop and say, well, there's nothing else to do. And we don't explore what else is possible. And we limit ourselves because we are founded in fear. We're coming from fear. Fear of failure, fear of disappointment, fear of you name it. And that it limits us, right? It stunts our creativity and our very growth.
Yeah, and I love, so there are some questions running here on the side that I'm not sure all the participants can see. Urbania just sent in a great one, which is, do you suggest we stop using the words should and shouldn't, or to create more awareness, or should we just be aware of them as concepts? And Arminda, what do you think? Should we just stop using them altogether, or create some more awareness, or both?
Maybe a little bit of both. I certainly don't want to tell anybody what to do. So test it, see how it feels to not use those words. What does that feel like? Is it possible for you to find a workaround in your spoken language and in your thinking process to yourself? I love to explore that. I don't use it myself. Like I said, when I catch myself using that word, it's an immediate red flag and it's a hard stop for me. And I went, oh, wait, should I? Is there really an obligation? Because for me, should is attached to obligation, which is attached to fear, which is attached to victim. So that's the thread for me personally. I'm curious what you guys think. And I think I also just lifted the block so that everybody should now be able to see everyone else in the chat.
Perfect. Yeah. And I think, in terms of should and actually using it as language or not using it as in your language or in your day-to-day communications, mm-hmm. I think this is an experiment that we could all try, actually. And it mirrors one that we've spoken about on calls in the past or on our past webinars. where when I work with clients, oftentimes I'll challenge them. I'll give them the task of, instead of doing anything they can to eradicate the word but from their activity, from their communication, and replacing that with the word and, just to see what happens. And without fail, again, only 100% of the time, the more you say and, the more you find a way to work around that word but, because but like should is kind of a word that squishes down creativity and is kind of a no in disguise, I think. It opens up possibility. And that's what we're really trying to do. I think at the root of this conversation, and why this is even important in the first place, is that for me and Arminda, opening up the world to more possibility, creation, creativity, and making it easy is something that we're really passionate about. And the word should is kind of like one big red blinking light of no. How do you read that, Arminda?
I agree. I love, and Emma said here in the chat, she said, I love and. So it really, yes, it's just about opening up and keeping ourselves open to the possibility of what if. That's it. That's been my motto for years. I intend to keep using that. Keep myself open to the possibility of what if, rather than shutting myself into a limitation mindset where I should do this or I have to do this, because that's the other companion word. Well, I have to show up here. And if you don't, so really just push ourselves out, knock down those walls, those barriers. We put ourselves into a box, believing that there are certain rules of engagement in this thing called your life that, well, what if there aren't any rules? There are just lots of tools that we have available to us to use to keep exploring.
Yeah, it reminds me of the time that I just graduated from college, and my first job out of school was at a law firm because I thought I wanted to be an attorney, but I was tired of studying, so I went to go work at a law firm as a paralegal instead. And this was one of the many jobs I've had in my career that looked kind of sexy on paper, but the nitty-gritty of the day-to-day was really just sucking the life out of me. And I don't just mean, the 80 hours or more of work per week and the crazy turnaround times and 3 a.m. day after day in the conference rooms. But if I listen to all of what I should do, which is stick with this job because you should, because this is the one you got after school and this is what you said you wanted to do, who knows what would have happened. I did get very sick in the interim, and instead of doing what I should do, I quit after 9 months, because not only was I extremely unhappy, but also my sort of stroke of insight was the fact that I was working on these big deals in conference rooms until 3 a.m, which at 22 years old, okay, you suck it up, you work really hard, that's fine. But the senior partners of them were there working on similar sorts of stuff at 3 a.m, day after day. So there I was projecting my life out into what I should be doing based on this scenario. And I didn't like what I saw. So I quit.
I love that you quit. I love it. How many of us went through university on a specific, I'm going to say a career track, right, where we were in university to get a specific degree, which, when you pop out at the other end of university, you now have this certificate that qualifies you to work in an industry or in a certain job. And how many people really end up doing that or stay doing that, but really aren't very happy at it because it's not what they anticipated? And in my case, full disclosure, I went through university and got the universal degree. I got an English degree because I could never figure out what I wanted to do. So I didn't know. I was like, well, I don't know. I started out as a theater major, and then I went with history because I love history. And it turns out that my university would not award me a history degree because I had way more credits than I needed, but they wouldn't allow me because I'd specialized in European history. So I was like, well, I got to have something, right? So that I can say that I've been through this university. So I went with English, which I also love because I'm a writer. So I thought, all right, great. I'll just figure it out later because I'm sure there's something to do with this English degree. And you can't teach here in the States with an English degree. You have to get a teaching certificate, right? They want to shoot you into this track. And I just was so resistant to that. I really was like, kind of pissed me off. I thought, I don't want to go to the School of Education just to get a certificate to say that I can teach when I can teach. You don't know. You don't know what I can do or what I'm capable of. And so here I've like had this life so far that's like only getting better all the time because I refuse to be told what to do. I refuse for somebody else to say, here's what you should do with this degree, or here's what you should do with the degree at all. Just what do I want? And then I go create that rather than being immobilized by fear that I am somehow incapable of anything because I don't have what someone else has who's doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah, I studied political science as an undergrad, and I have done 0 things in my career related to politics, government, international relations, you name the list, 0 things. And this is a trap of this should that I think is important that we address because so many people, and I actually know that there are some people on this call who have been stuck in this track of what the limited options I can see because of what I studied. And that forces you down a track. Well, I studied this, so I should stay in this field. Oh, I shouldn't waste my education. That's one I hear a lot. I shouldn't waste my education. In fact, I was told that also as I was stepping into my career as a coach and entrepreneur. I was told that I would be wasting my education.
You big waster?
I know, but I'm such a big waster.
Yeah.
But
throwing it all away. Throwing it all away.
Throwing it all away.
So reckless.
Throwing it all away, only for a much better life. And and all of the stuff that we should and shouldn't do, especially as relates to our career or what we should keep working on or whatever, it's only good or bad in relation to what you want to create. So again, using that law school example that we've used in the past, if you want to be an attorney because you're passionate about changing the justice system or doing something, then the fact that you're studying physics is probably not a good idea. You know, it's not as good in relation to your objective of being an attorney. But if what you really want to do is be a physicist or be a musician or be an entrepreneur for something, and you're staying being an attorney, well, then maybe that's something to explore. Because should you really? Should you stay being an attorney if what you really want to be doing is something else? How's that serving you?
Yeah. Okay. Let's pause here because something has just occurred to me. I would bet, I would bet dollars to donuts that every single person on this call and in the world has experienced something almost identical to this, especially if you've done or pursued any kind of higher education or specific training. And I was listening this morning to a podcast in which there was a Zen Buddhist master who said this one phrase I just want to share here because it's just kind of like in my head. Even a bad day is a good day. I just want to challenge what you just said, Alicia, is this idea that, okay, it's either good or bad in relation to what you want to create. What if it's neither? What if it's just all good? What if every decision we make is in support of the future we are creating? Rather than, again, putting ourselves into that limitation mindset that now I have to choose between, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? What if it's just, am I making the best decision I can with the information and the resources that I have today? I think a lot of times what happens is we get to the other side of of a decision, whether it's a month past or 10 years past, and we look back and think, oh, that was good or that was bad, and we want to place a value on something we did, what if we can just go back in time and revisit ourselves in that former space and really give grace and loving to our former self and say, yeah, I did the best that I could. I made the best decision, and look how great everything has turned out based on what I had at the time.
Yes, I agree with you. And I think, even as we're talking about this notion of should, shouldn't, and various ends of the spectrum, we have not yet addressed, which I think you began to do here, this notion of the fact that it's a process, and it's an experiment. This is yet one more spot where we can experiment with things. And what this is also an exercise in, into what we want to create or not. That's it offers, really, I guess what I'm offering is an exercise in gaining clarity for yourself.
Yeah.
And saying, what do I really want to create? Do I want to create a life as an attorney? Is that fun for me? Is that engaging for me? If the answer is yes, then, full guns blazing forward toward making that happen.
And it can be fun for you until it isn't.
Yeah, yes. And it can be fun for you until it isn't. And we told a story before of Brian Johnson, who is an entrepreneur and a philosopher who was a vegan for many, many years, and sort of a standing on the soapbox, preach about it vegan until he wasn't. And all of these things, what's that guy, the ultra marathon runner, Ross?
Rich Roll.
Rich Roll, thank you.
Yeah, or the one that's doing the 50-50-50 right now.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this guy's amazing. The Iron Cowboy, James.
Yes. So what he does, and he's got a great interview, by the way, on our friend Mark Thompson's podcast, theedge-show.com, about him he was an overweight attorney. Oh, funny, we keep going back to this. Working 1 million hours
Shout
a week.
out to all the attorneys out there.
All the attorneys. And he found himself so out of shape one day at home that he was at 38 years old or some ridiculously young age, winded, walking up the stairs at home. And he thought to himself, gosh, I need to change something about my life. Now, the next day wasn't the day he was the super mega marathon, 50 miles of running and swimming and biking every day for 1 million days in a row. And guys, I really encourage you to look up his story, because the details are much, much more specific in the story. What he did, though, is he just kept on testing. Just kept on testing to the point where now not only is he the super marathon runner guy, he's also a full vegan doing this, which, according to so many things that we talk about or think about what we should be doing, technically, according to what he should be doing, should be eating meat and having protein and doing all these other things. He's able to push his body beyond normal physical limits in a different way.
Yeah. And you can hear in the thread of the story, or even in examples from your own lives, for those of you that are participating or listening after the call has been recorded, this idea that when we get caught up in, I should be doing something, that we are limiting our own growth and our own potential. And we're buying into the misunderstanding that something outside of ourselves knows better than we know for our future and for our present, for right here, for right today. What is the best thing for me to do today in this moment, in preparation for this future that I want to be creating? And I also want to acknowledge, Alicia, maybe we can talk a little bit more about this idea of the fear factor, especially when it comes to a career. I don't know. I just think that's really real for a lot of people. If you have a family that you're supporting, if you have a home a mortgage that you're paying for, if you have kids in school and all sorts of things, it can be a really scary idea to say, okay, well, it's not what I want, but I'm stuck. Because I think there can be also a sense of um, paralysis, right? That we feel like I can't do anything. I get it. I get that I have bigger dreams or different dreams or aspirations for myself, but to just walk away from this doesn't seem responsible.
Sure. That is a big fear for a lot of people. And oftentimes, so again, there's a big difference between walking out the door and quitting your job today and going and living in a tent in the park until you build your dream, and doing it in a way that feels safe and secure for your family. And what I will often challenge people to think is, and to do, is to write down all of the assumptions that they have about why they can't create what they want, and then test them one by one. And the interesting thing is that, again, only 100% of the time, every single one of those assumptions is at best completely false, so you can toss it out the window, or at worst, it's a question that needs to be reframed or a part of the decision-making process that needs to be built in. So instead of saying to yourself, for example, this job that I'm stuck in is the only one that's going to pay the mortgage and pay my kids' bills and everything else, to design or create the ideal job for you, whatever that looks like in your mind on paper, and go out and look for, in a very effective way, because you've created what you want, something much closer to your ideal, So you don't need to be unemployed. So those being employed at this job and being unemployed aren't the only two options available. There are in between. And if that doesn't feel comfortable to you, there are yet other options, which include things like carving time out, even if it's 10 minutes a day, to dabble in something that's going to get you closer to whatever a more ideal, more fulfilling kind of a life is. So there are infinite options in creating space for more fulfillment.
I'm reminded, Alicia, of something I think that we've talked about in a previous webinar, but it would serve everyone, I think, to just use this as an example. It's a wonderful visual. If you are going to the gym and you imagine that you'd like to suddenly, what your real aspiration is to lift 100 pounds. Well, you're not going to just walk into the gym and lift, deadlift 100 pounds in that day. You're going to incrementally get closer and closer to that by adding just a little bit of weight on in subsequent visits, until eventually you see, oh my gosh, look at me, I'm lifting 100. And then we can push ourselves even further out. So it's, we've seen this. If you were to draw a circle and yourself in that circle, and then what we tend to do, and again, another reason that fear tends to paralyze us, is because we set a goal that I have a lot of scrap paper today for reasons that is a story I won't share on this webinar. Okay, so I'm reaching into my waistband. So if we have ourselves and we have this circle, and this is us in the circle, what we tend to do, and this is like would be our comfort area, what we're working on, or where we're comfortable. And a lot of times we set a goal, we think, oh, it's okay, I want that, but then all of a sudden it's so far out of reach that we don't do anything about it. But it's fine to set that goal, but then what we want to do, and I'm using this word goal, and I know that in webinar 3 of this series we're going to actually talk about goals, so we have this intention, whatever word we want to use. But what I want to do is just take these, you see, I want to create a trajectory where I'm taking these tiny incremental steps that are going to get me closer to that weight, rather than saying, I'm just going to like launch myself out there. Nobody lasts doing that. It doesn't work that way. It's very demotivating. And it's like, the air comes out of that balloon. So what we want to do is say, okay, great. What's the bigger picture? What's the vision? And what am I capable of doing today to get me closer to that? What can I create today?
Yeah, I'm very much living that experience right now. I am in the midst of a project like that. So some of you know who are here, and for those who don't, one of my big sort of life mission projects is revolutionizing the way that the world thinks about career. And I'm in the midst of creating all kinds of online content and modules that I'll be delivering for various groups of folks. So people in university, people who are mid-career and are ready to switch. And the size of the opportunity, as I have not only created some of the content, but also really mapped out my market, is enormous. And so, I've sort of planted my flag out there. And if I think about that company that's already revolutionizing the world and all this stuff happening, it's a scary thing. I mean, my heart starts to pound. I think, oh my God, how am I going to get all of this stuff done? And so what do I do instead of living out there in that fear of the unknown? I sit down like I did yesterday and I map out step by step, what do I need to do now to get me there?
I thought you were going to confess that you sat down in front of Netflix. And maybe that was just me.
Okay, 2 confessions that has happened in the past. Yesterday was not a Netflix day, though. Yesterday, I actually sat down and broke this big project down into easy, actionable steps. So while I can still get really excited about the opportunity and the big thing that I'm doing, it doesn't get me overwhelmed anymore because now I know really clearly this is what I need to do next. And this is what I'm going to do tomorrow. And more or less by this time, 3 weeks from now, this should be in the world. So yes, I love this notion of the comfort zone and where we should be and what we should be doing in relation to a goal.
Okay, and I'm hearing something here. I really want to shine a light on it because I think it's a critical component of the example that you just shared, and that is clarity. You gained clarity around the bigger vision. So it's not enough to just simply say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be a rock star," or I'm going to play for the NBA. And then we don't do anything else. We really need to wrap our head. You have to get clear. And you have to say no to a lot of other things. And there's this idea of commitment that is critical. And I like that commitment. To me, commitment is what replaces obligation. So if I really want to get rid of the shoulds and the shouldn'ts, and what I want to do, and which comes that's side by side with obligation. I want to get rid of obligation. I want to replace that with a commitment to myself. And in Alicia's case, I think this is a really fabulous example, as any number of you on the call could provide and please share some examples with us of your experiences with this. Don't let us just keep chatting. But this idea that, okay, here's what I want to create. I have the tools that I need to create this. What I really want to do is get this clarity around purpose and vision. So my objective is clear. And once I have that clarity, as Alicia was just sharing, the steps fall into the place, which is one of my favorite topics. I don't think we're really talking about it today, but this idea of, well, I really want to do something, but I don't know how. And so we do nothing. That's when we turn on Netflix, is we just simply sink back into, well, I don't know how to do that. I mean, it's great. I'm awesome and I could really do all of that. But once we have clarity and we really, really have identified the want, and that clarity comes, the how figures itself out. So it's never a question of, well, I don't know how to do something. And if you catch yourself saying that, I want you to slap yourself, because that is victim.
Violence in the home.
Violence on the call today. But that's a clear indicator of being in a victim mentality when we simply say, well, I really want to do that. I mean, it would be awesome. It would be great. And yeah, I could take down all those people doing it, but I don't really know. I don't actually know how to do it.
Yeah. And so, pulling out something that you said there, which I think is important to highlight, that popped into my mind, is the notion that should is an obligation to something external, and commitment is an agreement with yourself. That's an internal kind of a thing. And again, that doesn't mean, or Arminda and I aren't suggesting that you shirk your responsibilities, or that that you don't show up for your relationships or for your family or for all of these things. That's not at all what we're suggesting. There is a big difference, though, between should and external commitment, something that you are allowing someone else to obligate you to, and you choosing to act, and you having control over that.
Yeah. And hopefully what you can start to see is that even in what feels like a dead end or dire situation, that there are steps leading out. As soon as you make a commitment to you, that agreement, powerful agreements. And as soon as we've done that, wow, it's just, we're just laying one brick at a time. That's it.
So answer me this, Arminda. You're a mom. I'm not. But this is a place where I hear a lot of people get caught in the land of should or shouldn't, in obligation to, because they love their kids, because they want to take care of their kids, because they want to make sure that college education is provided for. Mm-hmm. So a place where should staying in job, should staying in relationship, should lots of things around this idea of having kids. And how would you suggest that people grapple with that? I mean, how do you, it seems kind of cruel or crazy to say, oh, I'm not going to pay for my kids' college education, or I'm going to take some me time. So how does go there? Let's go there.
Let's go there, because we're going there in a year. We're going there. My daughter is leaving home in a year. Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I think it's different for everybody. I certainly don't have some kind of blanket solution or prescription for other parents. I think that if we can do anything as parents, or just as non-parents, if we can do anything as human beings, it's to show up powerfully for ourselves. And when we show up powerfully for ourselves in our loving, then we are not only demonstrating for ourselves and replacing the childhood imprint of obligation with powerful agreement that I really, when I listen to me, I know what's best, because I'm making that decision based on all of the factors that only I have access to. So one, I'm showing up powerfully for me, and that feels amazing. You can think about that in any context of your life where you have not shown up powerfully for you. It could be something as simple as being with a friend or a loved one who said, hey, let's go do this, and you really didn't want to. You really felt a resistance on the inside, and you agreed anyway because you felt obligated. You felt like you should, and you felt lousy, and you had a miserable time, or simply you felt like you lacked integrity with yourself in that moment. So if we can replace that and every day just keep showing up powerfully for you, how much more powerful do you then become in your ability to create? Because I am a creator. That's what I do. I'm a creator. And if I happen to be a mom, if you happen to be a parent, well, how much of a gift is that to model that behavior for your child? Modeling the behavior that says every day you have a choice. Every day you have a decision that you get to make about you and how you want to be. It's about being in your space every single day. Now, what does that have to do with college and sending kids off? All I want to do is make sure that I have equipped my child with the tools, the best tools that are available to her to keep showing up and being an awesome human being.
Now, you said something, Arminda, you are a creator. And this is something, and a creator and being a creative and having creativity is something that most people think is just for the artsy fartsy folks. It's just for the painters and the dancers and the weird people like you and me. And they may say, how do I be a creator? I'm not a creator. What would you say to that?
It's ridiculous. Everybody's a creator. That's what I would say. Or did you want a more elaborate answer?
I like the quick and dirty. I like the quick and dirty.
So we have violence, we have dirt today. We just like
get
in and get out. Look, you're a creator. Own it.
Yeah.
Should I pull my sign off the board again? I think I pull it off the board for every single webinar. Look, it's just, this is the only question I answer every day.
What will you create today? Yeah, and this notion of should, I think, you know, in its enormous, only 100% of the time, in this notion of should in relation to creation and creativity, I think it ends up being a prison that we allow ourselves to stay locked in. Now, I should in this job that's very serious and important and squash everything that's fun and creative about my life because it's time to be real and get real and be an adult and all of that nonsense. And I think all of us are creators. I think all of us have the potential to build, and whether we like it or not, or whether it shows up in terms of actual, you know, artsy artistic expression, it doesn't matter. There's creation and creativity in everything that we do. You know, my brother's a naval architect. He's a scientist. He's bits and bytes, a lot of it. And he's creating every single day, something that he gets enormous joy from. So I think everybody is a creator.
I really grew up in this shadow of creativity. If I may share that. It took me a really long time to break out of the belief, the misunderstanding that I was not artistic. So I come from a family of what, by the world's definition, you would say are highly artistic people. I have 5 brothers who are all really gifted and talented, and a couple of them who are like they've carried that through and are now as a career where they draw, they paint, they create things that are tangible, right? A tangible creation, and that's their product, and they sell that, and people pay them a lot of money for that gift. And I never saw myself that way. I thought, well, I can't draw, so therefore I'm not an artist. So for me, it was directly linked to drawing and being an artist in that way. And it wasn't until I was much, much older and I started exploring some other areas of art that I thought, oh, wait, maybe art isn't confined to this little space and definition. And the older I've gotten and the more that I've explored what it is that I want to do. And so I don't actually use that terminology anymore. What do I want to be when I grow up? What I want to do, really, what do I want to create? So the very act of creating my life makes me an artist. That's it. I'm creating a life every day, the way that I show up. And so that entitles me. I'm entitled as an artist because I have that power of my own brushstrokes in my own space. I don't paint stuff. I don't make tangible stuff. I tried the crafty stuff for years, came from that tradition till I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much pressure. And I sucked at it. So I was like, in fact, I got an attic with some stuff. I could go pull it down. You guys don't want to see it. So I thought, okay, I'm creating, I'm being an artist. And it has no appeal to anyone. So I'm going to go pay someone else for a front door ornament. I'm not going to make my own. I don't have to make a front door ornament in order to be an artist.
Yeah, and I think this notion of creating a life and having the possibility of building things is also related to the idea, not what do you want to be when you grow up? The question that I often ask is, how do you want to be in the world? So many times people will come to me and say, I don't know what I want to do. I know that my career isn't making me happy. Or I know this isn't making me happy. I don't know what the next step looks like. And so the exercises that I'll have people do off the bat ideal or an ideal career is a part of it. It's about the whole life, because designing a whole life lets you know how you want to be in the world. Do you want to be active and buzzing and, as an entrepreneur and pitching ideas and creating things that way? Do you want to have travel and leisure and a lot of free time? And how do you want to be in the world? Which ends up driving a lot of the more concrete answers of what you end up executing, the fruit that is born out of that.
Yeah. What's informing your being?
Yes. Because the how do I want to be in the world also speaks to values, and not values in the weird sort of political sense that it's used in American society today. But
Americans.
I know those are Americans. But in the way of what do you value in the world? Do you enjoy being around your family? Do you like free time? Are you a mission-driven person? Do you want to give something back to the world? That kind of stuff. Because if what you value is giving back to the world, and your job and your additional activities besides your job are in direct opposition to that, then you're going to be living a life that doesn't feel very good, right? Yeah. So all of those things about, I guess this all circles back to what we should and shouldn't be doing, is really rooted in, isn't really rooted in anything, because there is nothing that we should or shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. And I really love this, where the conversation has gone, thanks to you, Alicia. She's so great. But this idea of values and really, how do I want to be in the world? I just, like, my head is just running with all sorts of thoughts around that. And we say this, I think it's a Zen saying, that how you do anything is how you do everything. And really sit with that for a while, because you could be showing up in one way in one area of your life, but if it could be very fraudulent for what's your reality. If really what you're doing is showing up with lots of obligation and lots of shoulds and shouldn'ts, that where else is that showing up in your life? So what I mean by that is, if you're in a job, I keep coming back to this one because I guess it's easy prey, but because what's our statistic, Alicia? How many in the world? 80?
87% of global workforce is engaged is disengaged or very disengaged at work. 87% of people are unhappy in their jobs around the world.
Okay, I don't really do math because it's not one of the things that I'm artistic around, but hello, 87% is...
That equals insanity.
Yeah, that's just crazy. So I'm just going to assume, it is shocking, Summer. It's horrifying. So I'm going to assume that there are some people on this call even that might fall into that 87%. But the point is that if you're showing... Huh?
That's a safer assumption than not.
Okay, yeah, there you go. So if we are inside of what we might call a dead-end job or career that is not supporting us emotionally, but we stay there because we feel obligated to stay there, I want to stop and slow down and say, where else is this behavior showing up in my life? What other arenas? Because we aren't isolated. We don't live inside of silos. So we have, we're cross-pollinating in our lives. We have families or we have friends or we have communities of people with whom we associate. We have charities that maybe where we volunteer. We have just all sorts of places. So if in this one area we're like, well, my life is great except for my job. I just really hate it, but I'm staying because, I got the wife and the kids. So I have this obligation. I really want to pay closer attention to that, because how we do anything is how we do everything. So if you're feeling a sense of obligation inside of that career path, chances are you're feeling a sense of obligation in other areas. And I'd really say slow down and ask yourself some of these questions, like, how do I want to be? And really allow yourself to come from that emotion, come from that authenticity, rather than continuing to fall prey to obligation and shoulds and shouldn'ts and being paralyzed by that. That's a choice you're making. but you can make a different choice.
Yeah, and if you even question the notion of, oh, I am showing up for my family and kids, but my work sucks, so but that's okay because I have my family and kids. There's no way that the weight of your unhappiness at work isn't affecting what's going on at home. There's just no way. Well, because whether we like it or not, we are integral people. You know, and I've told this story in the past as well. You know, when I moved from the US, where work and home are two very separate lines, when I moved down to Brazil and people are sharing all about their family life and personal details, I was like, why are you all sharing this stuff with me? But it came to make sense, because if stuff at home is wonky, you're not going to be 100% at work. And so the more you can understand the fact that everything is integrated, then this notion of where you are showing up as a should, you can see how powerful that is. Not powerful in the positive way, powerful in a way that's detrimental.
And I know we're about done, but I'd like to really add this, that if even a bad day is a good day, as we mentioned earlier, it's okay that you've been living with an obligation. How can you use that now and be more powerful? So rather than continuing to just feel the weight of that and to feel like, well, I'm stuck and man, I'm such a loser because I've been doing this. That's not what we're saying at all. We're simply saying, what if you have all these other options, and how empowering is that? How can you use the experience that has brought you to this place and recognize that you made the best decision with the information that you had? Now build on that. It's a building block rather than a dead weight. That's what I want to see. Go. Right. You can only go bigger.
Right. And thank God that you are finding out now. You know, now that you have the awareness, and now that you have these tools, you can do something about it. A lot of people wait until, you know, they're 70 or older than 70, or they never get around to things that are better. So as of now, you know, we've got the opportunity, which is fantastic. So we've got about 3 minutes left here on this webinar, which I can't believe. Once again, time has flown like crazy. Arminda and I want to thank all of you for joining us here. Thank you. It's so exciting to see so many of you back, and some new faces from other webinars as well, which is so exciting. Shout out to folks from Ideal Work Lab. And Arminda and I are going to be back here live next Wednesday, same time, same station, where we're going to talk.
Same that channel.
Exactly. And where we're going to talk about why we can stop and how we can stop caring what other people think. That's a really fun one, and I can't wait to delve into that. This is going to be recorded for you to download later, so download it, share the love, feel free to pass along the links. Reach out to me and Arminda if you have any questions. This may be all you need, and this may be the last time that you sit with us, which would be a total bummer. We'd miss you, but that's totally okay. And if you want to delve into something in a little bit more detail, feel free to reach out to me, to Arminda. It's all the same family. And thanks everybody for showing up. Thanks, Arminda.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Alicia. This was fun. We'll see everybody next week.
Everybody next week. Bye, guys.